Hello, everybody. All right, so today's message is going to be about college and how to be, successful in college. I attended two different universities. I'd say pretty average or above average in terms of the workload and the amount of intelligence you need to be able to, um, you know, pass the courses. So I like to give. I have a lot of friends that are young, and I like to give them a little bit of wisdom when it comes to going to college. Because when you first go to college, any university, you're going to probably, for the most many for in many instances, you're going to be experiencing more freedom than you're used to having. When you wake up in the morning, you don't have to see your parents, or you don't have to go to class if you don't want to. You have a lot more freedoms in terms of leading your life and how you're going to lead your life. So that can be a change and a shock, and maybe really affect your performance academically unless you have it in perspective. Okay, so I think a lot of times it does start in the home before you go to college, in terms of experiencing some freedom. Maybe your parents start giving you a little bit of freedom, or speaking with you about, how to, be on your own, so that when you do uh, go off to school, or any even if you go off to have a job, if you don't go to school, but when you're on your own, it is it's not such a huge change and creates such a huge difference in the way you perform in terms of your responsibilities. Okay. Yeah, like I said, you can get up in the morning and not go to class. You can skip class. You can not go to class all year, but you're paying for that class. So I think I have a way that you can approach college at university level, and always be successful if you stick to these rules. Okay. Go to class. Number one, different people learn differently. I'm a person that doesn't like to put a ton of pressure on myself, a ton of pressure on my brain, a ton of pressure on my mind. So I like to be present and absorb as much as I can. At least be present. At least go to class. At least go to your classes. Okay. That's number one. All right. Number two, when you go to class, take notes. Okay. Take notes of what the professor is talking about. Okay. Maybe there could be exceptions to this if you're in a lab or something like that, but I think even in a lab, many times this applies. Okay. The other thing is, do all your reading. They give you a syllabus when you go to college, and it tells you, the chapters that they're going over that time in the book, in the textbook. They tell you, they may even have some problems that you may have to solve. If it's like a math course or something like that, problems that you need to do, things that you're going to be responsible for. Look over that syllabus, and do all the things that it's telling you to do on that syllabus. All right. And what I would do is I would do it piece by piece. So say I have a class where I go to class on twice a week. Okay. Let's say I go to that class twice a week. And for that week, I'm responsible for chapter one or chapter two. Right. Then what I would do is I like to enjoy my free time. I like to have free time. I don't like to constantly be thinking about things. So I would leave my school at school. I would do all my work and studying at school. So I would go to my classes for the day. Say I had 2 or 3 classes that day. After those classes, I would go to the library, and I would do all the work I needed to do for those classes. So like I said, if I had a class where for that week I had to do read a chapter, then the first day I would read half the chapter, and then the second day of the week I would read the other half of the chapter. That way I had done everything on time and I didn't put too much pressure on myself. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to read the whole chapter this one day or whatever. Now, if you get in the library and you get on a roll and you keep reading, all right, fine. But I'm just saying, you can go ahead, but just don't get behind. Okay. And I would do also the assignments, the whether there were problems or something like that I had to do for that day, I would do those as well. Now, I think that the library is a good setting to get this work done, because in a library there's quiet, and also I believe a lot of times they'll play like classical music, and I think that it's like proven in some studies that classical music is great for you in terms of your mind and being able to study and think about things. Okay, so that's another reason why the library is good. Also, and I think it's an energy thing too. Everybody in the library is thinking, studying, so you can kind of tap into that energy, and that will help make things a little bit easier for you as well. Okay, so yeah, do your piece by piece. Break it up so that you're not behind. All right. So if you're responsible for that chapter, say your class is on Tuesday and Thursday. All right. If you're responsible for that chapter on the following Tuesday, then you can read half on Tuesday and then read half on Thursday if you like. Okay. Same thing with assignments. Just do everything that the syllabus tells you to do, and because that's what you're responsible for. That's one positive thing about college, is that they tell you what you're going to be responsible for. They give you the syllabus. So do what it says on the syllabus by the allotted time. And like I said, break it up. If you have that class 3 days a week and you're responsible for the first 2 chapters by the following week, right? Then read, you break down the math. I don't feel like doing math right now, but you do, point what's two-thirds of the first chapter, right? And then the second day you do the last third, and then you do another third of the second chapter, and then the third day you do the final 2/3 of the second chapter, and then by Monday you've read both chapters, okay, and broken it down into 3 chapters. And like I said, if you get in a roll and you go a little bit ahead, that's not a sin, okay, but just don't get behind. And also, I believe when you're reading those chapters, you should be taking notes on that as well, and then you should look over those notes. Actually, when you're reading the chapters, I don't know how important it is to really take notes on that. You can do that. That's kind of like at your own discretion. If you see something that you want to write down that you think is important, then go ahead and write that down. But look over the notes that you took while you were at the class. Okay. Then when you have an exam or a quiz or something like that, look over the applicable notes for everything that's going to be responsible on that exam or that quiz. Just look them over. One day. You don't have to kill yourself. Just go to the library, look them over, and you've already been looking over your notes while the class was going on anyway. Just before that exam, give yourself a day to look over everything, and then you should be ready to do pretty well. Okay. I don't love memorization. Sometimes you have to apply it, but like I said, you're giving yourself enough exposure to the material to where that's how it's supposed to get into your mind. That's how you're supposed to be able to remember it. Okay. So go to your classes, take notes when you're there, do everything that it says on the syllabus. Look over your notes before quizzes and exams, and you should be good. Now, outside of the classroom, okay, be an intelligent person outside of the classroom as well is going to be helpful for you. I always tell people, do not drink, do not smoke weed, do not jerk off. Those are my rules, okay? And grow. you will grow. Be around intelligent people, having intelligent conversations, things like that. Or, you know, do what you want to do. Maybe you want to do sports outside of that. Maybe you like watching television. You already did your work, so you don't have to bring that schoolwork home with you. But do not, sometimes they call it mind erase. Do not shoot yourself in the foot by killing brain cells by drinking and smoking, you know, and jacking off. I think is not good for you. I'm going to have to make a separate video on that. I think I already did something about addiction. All right. So I may just make a separate video about just, you know, watching pornography and things like that, because I believe that that can affect your confidence, and that can affect your mind and your comfortability, with yourself, you know, and your entire identity. Okay, so don't drink, don't smoke, because that kills brain cells. Okay, and then you could go into class foggy, not even be ready for class. You could go into an exam foggy and not be ready, and then and that will keep you on a good enough path to where, I'm telling you, if you do these things that I'm telling you, right, you're going to get at least a B or an A in pretty much every class. There's very few exceptions, okay? And this is just based off of natural law. Just not being an, you know, I don't want to say it, but not being an idiot, you know. And I hate to say that, you know, and that's just to say I'm somebody that my first semester of college, I got 2 Fs, a D, a C, and an A. And the A was just like an orientation course. It was like an easy course, because I would be walking to class, and I smoked weed at the time. I would see my friend that smoked weed, and he'd be coming back from class, and he'd be like, "Yo, you want to go smoke?" I'd be like, "Sure." And I'd turn around and go smoke with him. You know, that I'm that person. So I was on academic probation after my first semester of college. But by the end of me attending university, I was making the dean list every semester, because I learned these things. All right. And it's based off natural law. It's based on just using your brain and thinking logically. But the thing is, the reason so many people don't do well in college is because they don't have somebody to tell them these things. And you just need to have good people around you to tell you these things sometimes. All right. So I'm going to kind of leave it there so that the video doesn't go super long. And then people can ask questions and start a discourse. And then I can address any, you know, isolated concerns or questions, and we can go from there. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day and good luck with all of your studying.